So the big banks on the way to rescue with Greater Sydney restrictions in place now?
Yeah, that makes sense. The banks were very important for the initial rescue after the coronavirus crash of the stock market and the recession that followed. So banks, they've detailed the measures. They're basically given free overdrafts for small business customers. This is particularly CBA's doing this, targeted home loan deferrals, and extended promises not to evict people from their homes if they're behind their repayments. And I think because banks always follow suit, all the banks will play the same game when it comes to looking after people.
Okay, on to this survey, a new survey, Pete, that mentions that 3 in 5 workers say no jab, no job.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Elmo Software is an HR business, and this survey's come out. First time I've ever seen them do a survey. And it's quite relevant that basically we're saying 60% of the workforce is saying, well, if you're not jabbed, we don't want to work with you. And it's going to be interesting to see, because at the moment we know politicians haven't really got the guts to mandate that we have to be vaccinated. And so it's interesting to see that the workers in the workplace, they really want to work beside someone who is actually vaccinated. And also the survey found out, Pete, that job security has declined for the first time probably in a long, long time.
Real estate, still not a problem. Still not a problem here, Pete.
This is a staggering story, isn't it? So we've got an auction in Sydney in a place called Kangaroo Point. This place overlooks the Georges River. And the reserve was beaten by $2 million. And I thought, well, this is probably a $10 million property. It was a $4.2 million property. So we're talking nearly 100% over the reserve for this property, which indicates, in many ways that, this lockdown is not really threatening the real estate market. Clearance rates were down. They're now about 8.5% from before the lockdown, but they're still 77%. And get this, Pete, there were 19 bidders online, and the auction was over in 50 minutes.
Wow. I mean, and that would go to show, though, there's still not a huge amount of stock. So there's a smaller amount of stock online, and there's a larger amount of people vying for those smaller properties. I mean, it's still a hot market, but there's just
exactly right. It's
around.
A hot market. And Pete, what's also interesting is, and this came from the chief of NAB, Ross McEwen. He said, he's clearly worried about the lockdown, but he also made the point after lockdowns, there's a big economic rebound. So, we're going to see a lot. Hopefully this thing gets over and done within 2 or 3 weeks. If that's the case, we will see a big economic rebound rolling into Christmas, which would be a good thing. Yeah. But we have to get on top first.
Yeah, and that's why, I mean, we spoke about this last week, didn't we, Pete? I mean, there's some of the commentariat might start using the R word. Is there a potential for this again? But it's probably unlikely as vaccine rollout picks up. Yeah, exactly. And then we're getting into Christmas as well.
Well, the best news you actually just covered recent in the bulletin today, that if Pfizer's going to be bringing in 1 million a month for the next 3 or 4 months, that's going to be very important. Vaccinations will be the economic circuit breaker for this negativity. There could be a negative quarter, this quarter, but if we get the vaccinations happening, there'll be a big economic rebound. I kept my fingers crossed it happens sooner rather than later.
Okay. Peter Switzer, good to chat.